really worth, I'm Spencer Callahan. I'd like to help.
Spencer Callahan is the one to see. Call 387-2323.
LA filing number 16-7970.
WNXX Jackson, KNXX Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. That means we're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Fired up, you're hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob back and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Luke Johnson, 15 minutes from right now, talking Saints and Chiefs. Best win and worst loss on the board in college football and the NFL coming up in the end of hour number one. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, with us at 2:15, and Blair Kirchhoff is going to join us. He writes for the Kansas City Star, covering the Chiefs. Want to get some thoughts on the defending champs, two-time defending champs, as it were, as they've had some injuries. They've won some close games. They got a good quarterback, I'm told. We'll find out all things Chiefs from Blair Kirchhoff coming up in an hour and 30 minutes from right now. So let's get into it here on this Thursday. I want to talk special teams and LSU to lead off the show today. I wrote a piece over at LouisianaSports.net about LSU special teams and kind of dug through some numbers because Brian Kelly spoke in pretty glowing terms about his special teams unit back on Tuesday. And this is a group that, as you all know, if you've watched LSU football at all over the last 2 years, has been much maligned since Brian Kelly got to Baton Rouge. He made the decision to put Brian Polian in charge of special teams after 1 year. That was not going to work, and they moved on. It all started with a disaster in the Superdome with Florida State, where LSU had a field goal blocked and then an extra point blocked with no time on the clock to lose the game. They also muffed 2 punts in that game. Later on in that season, you muffed the opening punt against Tennessee. You had offsides on kickoffs. I mean, it was a disaster as far as special teams go for LSU 2 years ago, and it wasn't a whole heck of a lot better last year. It was a little bit better, but it was wildly conservative last year. And you realize that over the course of 2 seasons, LSU essentially scrapped the punt return game because they didn't have any confidence they could execute catching the ball. In 2022 and 2023, LSU returned 23 of 105 punts. That is a return rate of 22%. Now, you've brought in Xavier Thomas. He's already returned 8 of the 20 punts that he's fielded. That's 40% return. So he's doubled your return rate, and he hasn't dropped the ball yet. So you've made a significant change there, and I think we all agree one that should work out in LSU's benefit. Brian Kelly said back on Tuesday that we hadn't busted the big one, but we got a sure-handed guy back there. And I think the big one is potentially coming. Keep in mind, Xavier Thomas averaged 12.5 yards per punt return and had a punt return touchdown against Georgia at Mississippi State. He had 202 return yards as a freshman in college. That's almost double what LSU's had over the last 2 years. He had, again, 202 punt return yards, and LSU at 126 in the last 2 years combined. I mean, they essentially put Javen Nicholas and Greg Clayton back there to do nothing. And that makes plenty of sense when you've got Jaden Daniels and Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors, and you can just go ahead and march down the field whenever you want. They didn't return a lot of punts in 2019 either. But they've got the ability to do that. But it's not just the punt return game that's been better. Aaron Burrell has been great. Brought him in to handle the kickoffs, and it's not something that I think we spend a lot of time talking about. But you realize that Aaron Burrell has kicked 25 kickoffs this year. 24 of them have been touchbacks. The one that wasn't a touchback was after Kyron Lacey got the unsportsmanlike penalty that backed LSU back up to the 20-yard line against USC, and Burrell couldn't kick it to the end zone, and you almost gave up a kickoff return touchdown on that one. Zachariah Branch nearly broke it, and Burrell actually made the tackle. But when you haven't given him a 15-yard penalty to back him up in the shadows of his own goal line, he's kicking through the end zone every time, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Don't give teams a chance to run it out and make a huge play. I'd rather just knock it through the end zone, and Burrell has absolutely done that. Now, Jay Bramlett was an unsung guy on last year's team, mainly because he didn't play very much. LSU didn't punt very much last year. They were last in the country in punts. But when Jay Bramlett did have his chance to punt, he was awesome. Do you know how many punts were returned against LSU last year? Beck, I'll just let you throw a guess out there. How many times did teams attempt to return a punt against LSU?
Last year?
Yeah.
Let's say 30.
Two punt returns. He didn't punt very much, but when he did, it was high and it was fairly long, and they fair caught it. LSU's opponents last year had 2 punt returns for -1 yards. I don't even know how to say that. -1 yard? -1 yards? Whatever. Yeah, -1 is what it was. That is as good as you can do. And so this year, we were out there at camp, and we're watching Peyton Todd and Blake Oxendorf punt. And if you were listening or reading practice reports, wherever you read those, or looking at Twitter or wherever you were getting your information in the fall, there wasn't a lot of glowing conversation about LSU's punters because we saw a lot of punting, and it wasn't great. And so you had some real concern about filling in for a guy that did his job very, very admirably. Keep in mind, Brian Kelly had Jay Bramlett for 5 years, dating back to 2019 at Notre Dame. Bramlett had done all the punting for Brian Kelly. So you had to turn that over. And so they made the decision. Brian Kelly was asked before the season, like, okay, how are you going to handle punting? And said, we use both. And now it's pretty evident that Peyton Todd is handling the longer punts and Oxendorf is handling the shorter punts. And all 4 times that Blake Oxendorf has been sent out there to punt, his punts have been down inside the 20. He's 4 for 4. Todd is averaging 41.1 yards per kick, which is not unbelievable, but it's not terrible either. And he hasn't given up a ton of return yardage. They're only averaging 4.4 yards per return. So those guys have put LSU in a good spot as far as punting goes. Brian Kelly talked about it in a little bit more detail, and basically what he said was, we're directionally kicking, and they're executing what we're asking them to do. And so while you couldn't take a step back as far as punt returns go, and you were okay on kickoffs, but you've really taken a step forward there, you could have taken a big step back in punting, and you really haven't to this point. It hasn't been as good, but it's been good enough. And then you come to the final piece of that, which is field goal kicking. And Damian Ramos is 5 of 6 on this season. His lone miss came on that one time-sensitive kick against Nichols. You'll probably remember it. Ricky Collins was in the game because Nussmeier had to go out. And Ricky Collins got tackled on the left sideline right in front of LSU's bench, and they ruled him out of bounds with 3 seconds to go in the half. So LSU's field goal team went out there. Clock was stopped, and the official said, hey, we're going to go under and we're going to review this. So they reviewed it and determined and announced that, hey, he was down inbounds, so the clock will start on my whistle. And I thought LSU should have snapped the ball and spiked it. It was second down. You could have spiked the ball and then not had to rush the kick. Instead, they lined everybody up, and they got things ready to go. And when they blew it ready to go, they snapped it, and they got a good rush. Nichols did, and Ramos missed it. And that's when Brian Kelly blew the gasket on Ramos going to the halftime locker room. And Kelly said that, I told him what was going to happen. The officials confused him. He listened to the officials, not me, and I didn't like that and all the whole deal, whatever. I thought LSU should have spiked the ball. They didn't, and he missed the kick. That's the only one he's missed thus far. He's 5 of 6. If you extrapolate it out for his 3 seasons, he's been a 77% kicker. He's 79% as a kicker from under 50 yards. He's only been asked to try one 50-yarder in his career. It was last year, and he missed it. But he's done a good job as far as kicking goes. And Kelly said he was rock solid and dependable back in Tuesday's press conference. He, last year, if you go for a whole season, was 12 of 15. He was 5 of 6 inside 30, 5 of 5 inside 39. So you're talking about 10 of 11 inside 40 yards. And then he was 2 of 3 from 40 to 49 yards. So he's been good. I don't have a problem with him. Is Cade York probably a little bit better? Sure. He's got a stronger leg and gives you the ability to kick one from 43, 44 that Ramos probably doesn't. But he's been pretty solid. So you look across the board at LSU special teams. Punt returning, they've taken a step up. In punting, they've been very good. In the kickoff game, they've been excellent, banging it through the end zone without penalties, doing a great job there. They've gotten their field goals taken care of. There's not really an issue with the special teams here. Bob Diaco is running things. He's been doing that kind of for 2 years. And I have been pleasantly impressed with what LSU has done on special teams. And it's just another department where I feel like the program is getting a little bit better. And nobody that I talk to is satisfied right now with exactly where LSU's football program is. Most people suggest that things are getting better. You've got a really good staff. The recruiting class is excellent. The offense is humming. The special teams have been improved. What's the issue with the defense? I think it's personnel. I think the coaching's getting a little bit better. And once you clean that up, you've got what looks like a championship level program. Nobody's going to spend a ton of time talking about special teams because it's one snap here, one snap there, and all of a sudden you look up and there have been 14 special team snaps. And we're more apt to talk about the 78-yard touchdown run that Caden Durham had, or the sacks that Braden Swinson had, or the big plays the defense allowed, or not getting the running game going. All that stuff tends to be more top of mind than special teams. But if you take a second and look at what LSU's done from a special teams perspective, it's been good. And maybe that helps them in the margins get a win here or there. They figure to play a lot of close games. When you look at Ole Miss, A&M, Arkansas on the road, Florida on the road, Bama, like, you figure to be in 3 or 4 really tight games moving forward. Maybe you dust Arkansas, maybe you dust Vanderbilt, maybe Alabama comes in here and overwhelms you. But it looks like, based on the schedule to me, they're going to be in some tight games. And maybe, just maybe, the execution from a special teams perspective, whether it's a late field goal, whether it's not allowing any kickoff yardage, whether it's directionally punting properly, whether it's Xavier Thomas busting one for a big play and changing the complexion of a game. That might be the thing that tips the scales in LSU's favor. We wouldn't have said that 2 years ago. We would not have said that last year because you're just trying to prevent utter disaster on special teams. There hasn't been any disaster on special teams at this point. They've been fine. And that's a positive step for LSU's football program. If you're looking for LSU content, there's a story on LSU special teams right there at LouisianaSports.net. You can also find it on YouTube at Hunt on LSU. Appreciate y'all for subscribing to the YouTube channel and for checking out LouisianaSports.net. You don't have to subscribe to that. That's all free. Go check it out. We got a ton of content on there right now. Saints perspective, SEC football news, and of course, all of your LSU content as well. When we come back, talk to Luke Johnson about the Saints. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports. EvolvePT.com is the website. Look, you got to check them out. If you're in pain, go in there and get some rehabilitation done. Robbie Bolton's been doing this for 2 decades. Professional athletes have trusted their bodies with him. You can do the same. Doesn't matter if you're a youth athlete. Doesn't matter if you're a high school or college athlete. Doesn't matter if you're aging and just trying to get back to the pickleball court or walking every day. If you've got pain, no matter what it's from, and you need rehabilitation, Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports is where you need to be. Their physical therapists are going to be there with you every step of the way. They will monitor your recovery with that isokinetic testing, and they'll get you back to being your active self, and that's the goal. Doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter what that activity is. If you've got pain, Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports is here to help you out. Dry needling, cupping, scraping, all of it can be done right there on site. They're on Starring near Highland Road, right there by Sammy's Grill. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Check them out online, evolvept.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new Bayou vehicles come with a complimentary extended warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Hanging out here on a Tuesday edition. That would be bad. Thursday, much better than Tuesday. Not that we don't like our friends at Pluckers. I like Pluckers a lot, but that's Tuesday. The weekend's a little further away at that point. Weekend's pretty close at this point.
This is as we said, the best day of the week.
Let's get it. It's not. It's a good day. I like Thursday. I'm in a good mood today. Had a great lunch earlier. But it is Thursday, and that means our shows are brought to you by Rouse's, and that means we get to talk to Luke Johnson. Covers the Saints for The Advocate. Joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Luke, how are we doing?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Doing quite well. Imagining the Saints were doing a little bit better 2 weeks ago than they are today. What was the vibe check in the locker room after that one in Atlanta? That was tough to watch.
Yeah, I think a lot of the guys are kind of just fed up with their performance in some of these close games late. The line that just like stuck with me is, Dennis Allen's like, look, I think we got a good team. We were in there, playing a competitive game against another good team in the Falcons, yada, yada, yada. And Chris Olave afterwards was like, I'm sick of hearing we're a good team. Like, yeah, until we start winning these close games, like playoff teams do, like winning teams do, then we're not a good team. I went back and looked it up. In their last 7 games decided by 7 points or less, they are 1-6. Their performance in these types of games is not good, and they've lost 2 straight. And now their season that got off to such a promising start is kind of feeling a lot like the last couple of years.
I know that this is something that you probably look into, but does it feel like there's a common thread in those losses at 1-6 mark? I mean, is there something that they don't have?
There's unfortunately so many common threads. Let's see. Since Dennis Allen has taken over in 2022, they're 8-10 in games decided by 7 or less, right? Which, on the surface, like it's not that bad. It's kind of in line with their regular record. But then you look at those games more closely. They've had the lead or were tied in the final 4 minutes of 6 of those, or 8 of those 10 losses. 6 of those losses included explosive plays of 30-plus yards or defensive penalties of 30-plus yards. And in some cases, both of those things. And then you look at the offense's performance. They've had 9 drives where they had an opportunity to take the lead or tie the game inside of the final 4 minutes. And those 9 drives have resulted in 10 points. And one of those, only one of those drives that resulted in a touchdown was last week, which they ended up then coughing the lead right up anyways. So it's just been it's been bad performances all around, offense, defense. Special teams is also included in this. They've had 3 missed field goals on those 9 drives. So it's just it's really, really maddeningly poor performance. And when you look at it, it's easy to see the Saints team being a winning team if they could find a way to win these games. Since 2022, in this span that I'm talking about, they have 5 wins of 17 plus points, like blowout wins. That's more than anybody in the NFL except for the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Cowboys. Like, this is a team that is capable of blowing you out. It's just not capable of winning the close games.
Man, there's a lot of different ways I could go with that. And I realize there's not a single team in early October that's healthy in the NFL. It just doesn't exist after a couple of weeks. But I also feel like it's reasonable to look at this and go, well, Kamara's got some broken ribs apparently, and Olave's banged up, and not to mention you don't have 2 of your offensive linemen, and all of a sudden you've got a defense that doesn't have Demario Davis or Tyrann Mathieu, and Marshawn Lattimore's been banged up. Like, there's so many guys out. Is there anything to that, or that's just an excuse that nobody wants to talk about?
I think it's the latter. Obviously, like, these games could be different if you've got Taysom Hill in the lineup, if you got Eric McCoy in the lineup, if you got Demario, if you've got Tyrann Mathieu on the game for late clutch situations. Obviously, but like you said, every single NFL team deals with this stuff. So you cannot fall back on this as an excuse. The Saints have had their starting quarterback in the, they haven't had the injury to the most important position. Obviously, Carr dealt with injuries last year, but everybody deals with this sort of stuff. Everybody misses important players. The Eagles on their game-winning touchdown drive, they didn't have 3 of their most important offensive players.
Yeah.
In A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Lane Johnson. So it's not something they can fall back on as an excuse, saying if we had these guys, it'd be different. You just still got to get the job done. It's
a good point. Atlanta didn't have 2 of their offensive linemen in the game on Sunday either, so that's just kind of the way it goes in the NFL. As far as those injuries go, how are we feeling about Monday? It's an extra day of rest. I didn't get the sense that anybody but McCoy was definitely out an extended period of time. Do you feel like they'll be a little healthier when they go to Kansas City?
A little bit, but I still think there's a chance that they're missing some important players. Taysom Hill, I would imagine there's a good chance he misses this game. You're talking about 2 chest injuries in the span of 3 games. The bruised lung obviously kept him out of the Philly game. Wouldn't surprise me if the rib issue that he's dealing with now keeps him out of the Kansas City game. Cesar Ruiz is one that I'm really not sure about. We haven't heard anything really definitive on what kind of knee injury he's dealing with, other than they have chosen not to put him on IR. But I think that's another injury that could potentially keep him out. I feel a little bit better about Demario Davis and Tyrann Mathieu. The fact that Tyrann never went back to the locker room after kind of dealing with his injury makes me feel a little bit better about that. And Demario, he was around all last week, even though he wasn't practicing. He was out there. So I feel like there's a decent chance he'll be back as well. So it's a little bit of good, a little bit of bad.
As far as Taysom goes, I spent some time on that back on Tuesday's show, being like they're statistically in terms of the production are way better when he's out there. But his statistics are not eye-popping. It's 5 carries in this game. And obviously, he had a couple touchdowns before he went out of the game on Sunday. It's not like they overwork him or anything. It's just that they're a little bit more productive when he's out there. What are they missing when he's not there, and how do they counteract that?
Well, the big thing, and this is something that we talked about in the lead-up to the season, is we were expecting a lot more of him on the field just because his versatility really allows them to do a lot more, even when he's not touching the ball. In previous iterations of this offense, it was like when Taysom was on the field, he was getting the ball more often than not. And in this offense, he's just more of he's on the field more, and he's lining up in a lot of different positions to where they can't key on him. So it kind of opens up a lot of different play calls that they can do with him on the field. So even just taking away the really good situational stuff. The 3rd and short stuff that they really missed against Philly, the goal line stuff that he showed he could do against Atlanta. That stuff is obvious, But when you can line him up at fullback and the team doesn't know if he's going to get the fullback dive or he's going to leak out into the flat or if he's just going to be a lead blocker on the play, I think that's what really hurts when you take him out because they have a lot of different things they can do with him on the field that makes the defense kind of have to guess.
Luke Johnson's our guest, covers the Saints for The Advocate. Follow him on Twitter at @ByLukeJohnson for all your Saints information. All right, let's turn our attention to this game at Kansas City. I think when the schedule came out, if you were going to look at any game and say, well, they're going to win that one, it would have been the opener against Carolina at home. If you're going to look at any game and say they're not going to win that game, it would probably be this one on Monday Night Football in Kansas City. Do you feel any differently now than you did when the schedule came out after watching Kansas City the first few weeks and watching New Orleans?
Yeah, weirdly I do.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to pick the Saints to win this game. Right? Kansas City obviously is 4-0. They've got the world's best player on their team. You're an idiot if you pick against Kansas City. You have learned that last year when I kind of doubted them in that playoff run and they go out and win another Super Bowl. But they've looked pretty vulnerable this year, even though they are 4-0. We talk about close games. Like they've had to pull out 4 close games in 4 weeks. Rashee Rice is hurt. Travis Kelce hasn't been that good this year. Patrick Mahomes, frankly, hasn't been that good this year. He's got a turnover in every game. Their scoring's way down. So I mean, they can be beat. Like it wouldn't be a complete shocker to me if the Saints went in there and beat them this week. Which like I wouldn't have believed myself saying that 2 months ago. But at the same time, I mean, like. It's really hard to bet against them, right? And they have found ways to win. Like the exact stuff we were just talking about with the Saints not finding ways to win. Like the Chiefs have been on the opposite side of that coin. And I think really the strength of their team this year has been their defense. Like Steve Spagnuolo is a great defensive play caller. He's gotten those guys he's absolutely pushing all the right buttons for those guys. They've got a lot of really good players on that side of the ball. And you have to figure that at some point, like Mahomes in this offense is going to figure it out. So, like vulnerable, yes. Like, am I picking the Saints? No.
When I look at this Chiefs defense, and make no mistake, like they were great on defense last year. That was something that a lot of people don't want to talk about because Mahomes and Kelce are more fun to talk about. But defense is great, and Chris Jones right there in the middle of it had 2 sacks last week at Los Angeles. That's a soft spot for the Saints with McCoy and potentially Ruiz out. Is that the biggest issue you see with this Kansas City defense and the Saints offense?
Yeah, 100%. I mean that and just like Spagnuolo's pressure packages. Like if you're going to talk about any quarterback, like all NFL quarterbacks are not as good against pressure as they are in a clean pocket. But like the splits are especially dramatic for Derek Carr, and if the Chiefs do one thing really, really well, it's generate pressure. And if they have one guy who can wreck a defense or wreck an offense, it's Chris Jones going up against like the weakest spot on this Saints team. One that wasn't especially strong going into the season, and then has gotten considerably weaker with injuries to Eric McCoy and Cesar Ruiz. So, I mean, that just makes you think back to like the Eagles game and Jalen Carter just completely wrecking that game for the Saints offense.
Yep.
I mean, I think Chris Jones has the potential to do the exact same thing if the Saints aren't smart about things. So they're going to have to get kind of creative with their offensive scheme because they can't just run what they run against this team, I don't think.
It's the NFL, and it's so week to week, and we get ahead of ourselves. But I guess that's kind of the point on this medium here in the radio. But like, if they lose at Kansas City for their 3rd loss in a row, you turn around and you got Tampa coming to you. Like, what if they lose these next 2? I mean, you lose all of a sudden 5 in a row. What does that mean?
I think it means they're just exactly what we thought they were,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think if you go back and look at, a lot of people at the beginning of the season are like, they need to go at least 2-4 in those first 6 games. Now, people's expectations changed a little bit after they got off to such a hot start. But like, I still think if they lose the next 2 games, right, it's going to be bad. Everybody's going to hate it. But their schedule still lines up very, very favorably toward the end. They still got games against the Giants. They got another one against the Panthers. They get the Falcons at home. They still have some really
Cleveland
winnable. Cleveland, Las Vegas, like the back end of their schedule is very, very friendly. So like it'll be bad. Yes, people will be down on the team, but it's not something that is insurmountable, I don't think.
Let's talk about the last thing here that everybody wants to talk about. Devontae Adams, is that a realistic thing for this team?
I mean, I think it is, but like the problem is that you've got a lot of competition for him, and in order to make it work on the Saints end, like you're going to need some help from the Raiders. So that means you're going to have to give them a pretty compelling package. Like you're going to have to blow the other teams out of the water because like they're going to need the Raiders to take on some of the salary. So I think that's like a roadblock for this. I wouldn't put it at like great chances of being successful, but if the Saints are really, really want Devontae Adams, like they could put together the package to get him. It's just a matter of whether they think that's a wise investment in a receiver who, while he's been very, very good the last couple of years, he is going to turn 32 in December. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's obviously we're going to be paying a lot of close attention to it. But I think some other teams might have a little bit better resources to make that trade happen.
The biggest question, will the Brewers win the baseball game today?
Well, I was texting our friends last night about how I was never more confident in anything in human history than the Brewers not making a comeback last night. So of course I'm picking them to win tonight. I just think they're pitching. It's been like the bedrock of their success for the last decade, and it kind of sucks right now. But your boy Jose Quintana
is he's not good, but he has been good against the Brewers. That's a good point. I forgot.
He has dominated them in the past. Yeah. So like I'm not feeling great, but I'm going to pick him to win because like I can't just tell everybody how much I hate my team right now.
All right. Safe travels up to KC and good luck to the Brew Crew tonight. Thanks, Luke.
Thanks, buddy. Talk to you next week.
Luke Johnson of The Advocate at @ByLukeJohnson on Twitter. All of your Saints coverages with us every single Thursday here on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. All right, we'll come back. Got a little bit more to do. Best win, worst loss. Certainly we're going to talk to Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, coming up. And we will also chat with the Kansas City Stars beat reporter for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's Blair Kirchhoff. He's going to join us coming up at 2:30. So don't go anywhere. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
All right, you got to sign up today. Cover 5 SEC content. We're a few weeks into the season. That doesn't mean you can't sign up because there are weekly prizes and season-long prizes, and you can get some pretty solid points accumulated pretty quickly. Or you can do what I did, which was back up massively last week if you screw it up. So go download the Cover 5 app. Get into the SEC content. You got to enter the code LABRSEC24, and you can pick against me. It's very, very simple. If there's a 10-point favorite, and they cover you pick them to cover, and they cover by 17, you get 7 points. If they're a 10-point favorite and they cover by 3, and they don't cover, they only win by 3, you lose 7 points. And it just works like that. If you got to pick 5 each and every week, I'll have my picks locked in here this afternoon. You can compete against me and 100 others here in the Baton Rouge area. If you're not a member, get the Penn Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has back-to-school savings like $16,000 off 25 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $16,000 off. All new.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Reminder about our friends over at Rouse's. Get on by and get your weekend groceries. LSU's off this weekend. Saints don't play until Monday, so you might have a day to really just veg out and watch football that you're not completely emotionally distraught over. So get some good to eat while you're there. You got your chips and dips all there. If you're going to game watching party for somebody else, you can go there and check out meat pies. Got your sandwich trays as well. Got all your burger needs, steaks. If you want to throw some steaks on the grill this Saturday. Then you get on by this weekend and grab everything you need to watch the Saints on Monday Night Football in a real high-profile game against the Kansas City Chiefs. There's a Rouse's location near you, no matter where you are, here in South Louisiana, all the way over to Gulf Shores, Alabama. Always remind you can download the Rouse's app. Makes your shopping so much easier. If you don't have time to go in and do the shopping, just do it right there on your phone digitally. Swing on in, set that pickup time. They'll walk it right out to your car, and you can get on your way. Rouse's, official grocer of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's, this feels like home. You know, Luke brought up a good point there, Beck. Not one that I was unfamiliar with, but certainly one that makes you think about other teams as opposed to the New Orleans Saints. As I was watching the game on Sunday, I'm looking at this and I'm going, okay, I already know that Ruiz and McCoy are out and not playing. I already know that Taysom Hill is out and not playing. So your interior offensive line is completely compromised. Your most versatile playmaker is out. You've got Kamara running hurt. Olave's hurt too. Like, I'm looking at this mash unit on offense going, this is not what you signed up for in August. And then I'm looking at the defense and I'm going, okay, Demario Davis is your heart and soul. He's never missed a game for injury. He's not out there. I'm looking at his replacement, Willie Gay Jr. He's not out there. Tyron, who's your heart and soul in the back end, is not playing. I got JT Gray running around out there. They're bringing in linebackers I never heard of. You got Lucas Patrick playing center, and you're bringing in guys to play guard. You got I don't even know half the guys that are out on the field, it feels like. And I'm going, they can't be expected to perform at an elite level or at the level that we expect them to be at with this many injuries. And that's kind of the way I was looking at the game. And then Luke looks at me and he goes, well, the Eagles were out there last Sunday, and they had no Lane Johnson, who might be the best right tackle in football. They had no A.J. Brown and no Devontae Smith. That's their two best wide receivers. And you look at the Falcons, and they don't have two of their offensive linemen. And basically, to use a Seinfeld term, like, you can stuff your sorries in a sack here, and I don't care about your injuries. And I feel like, I guess, that's the way you kind of have to approach it.
Yeah, I agree for the most part, but in this game, the Falcons were down two linemen, which hurt them, and you could tell because Kirk Cousins was getting pressured. They only gave up. I don't even know if they gave up a sack, but the offense didn't score a touchdown. The Saints defense played well, and as we mentioned, they didn't have multiple starters, including a couple of the leaders on the defense, and they still didn't hold them to. They still had them to only field goals. So that was kind of that's definitely something you can't really make an excuse for the Saints. I mean, not to mention the fact that they very easily could have won this game with all these injuries with all the injuries accounted for. They still should have won this game. So it's
basically
hard to.
I think the point is, like, if your starting quarterback goes out, we can start making excuses.
Right.
Because nobody really functions, save the Eagles with Nick Foles. Like, okay, save Tom Brady coming in for Drew Bledsoe. Like, your starting quarterback goes out, you're just not as good. But, like, me, logically speaking, when I hear football guys, the Jacob Hesters, the Brandon Taylors, come on and go, it's next man up. Next guy's got to play. I'm like, yeah, well, that guy goes to the Pro Bowl. He's an all-pro. This guy barely made the team above the practice squad. Like, it's not the same. And that is true. But the other team's dealing with it too. And unless it's week one, like, it just is what it is. I mean, the Bengals got in deep into the playoffs the year after the Super Bowl, and they had two offensive linemen on one side out. They had guys coming off the practice squad to try to play offensive line, and Joe was running for his life. Like, the Ravens got to the playoffs, and Lamar Jackson wasn't there. It's like everybody is dealing with stuff. Patrick Mahomes was playing on one leg last year, and that's just the way it goes. And so I think what I have to reconcile with myself is, yes, the Saints are worse without Taysom Hill and Cesar Ruiz and Eric McCoy and Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara and Tyrann Mathieu, Demario Davis and Willie Gay. They are worse objectively with those guys out. But the other team is dealing with all that crap too. I just don't know about it because I don't know who plays left guard for the Falcons. I could not tell you with any degree of certainty who the left cornerback is for the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, it just, so I'm closer with the Saints. I know who they're missing. I know who's out there. I know what Ross Jackson writes, where that guy stands on the practice report. But everybody else is dealing with it too. So you're losing all these games, not because your right guard's hurt. You're losing all these games because you don't make the plays down the stretch that you need to in these games where you're 1-6 in one-score games.
Yeah, and again though, I don't necessarily fully agree. I definitely agree with the premise of that statement, but there are definitely exceptions, I think, to that situation. Whereas some team like the Saints had 7 or 8 guys on the injury. I was keeping up with the Falcons as well because I wanted to see if the other McGarry was already, they'd already put him on the IR. I wanted to see if the other lineman was going to go, and he ended up not playing as well. But the Falcons had 2 guys hurt. The Saints had like 8. So we can't just say it's equal and that, you have to go out there and win. I do think, obviously, with the way the game went, the Saints very easily could have won that game. But depending on how many guys you have hurt and how many guys are not on the field and how important they are to the team, I think you do have to factor that in, as opposed to just saying just a blanket statement of you no matter who, everybody's hurt, you have to go out there and win.
And I think my point is, unless it's Derek Carr, like, make it happen.
Okay.
Like, if you got Jake Haener out there, okay, that may not go great. I don't love Jake Haener's ability to stare down Mahomes on Monday Night Football and get that done. I don't think that's a great opportunity in the Dome with Jake Haener out there and the Bucs coming into town. Like, that's okay. I'll give you a pass on that one. I realize that Sean Payton won games with Teddy Bridgewater and won games with Taysom Hill, and that was great for New Orleans, and they had really good defenses, and Sean made it work. I will offer you an excuse if your starting quarterback goes out. It's just the way it is in college football and in NFL football. Even more so now in college football because all the backups leave. They're all freshmen now. With that one, I'll give you a pass on. It's just bad luck if you don't have your quarterback out there. You don't have your center and guard. Like, you need to have 7 guys available to you on the offensive line that when those 2 guys come out, you got 2 more to plug in, and you got to execute the plays. And so I was more so on your side Sunday than I sit here on Thursday today. I'm thinking about it, like, going, I don't really want to hear about it. Like, this is the 3rd year for Dennis Allen. Everybody in the NFL is getting hurt, and the Chiefs still manage to win 13 games every year, and the Saints still manage to win 8. And so there's more to that than, well, we keep getting guys hurt.
Yeah.
I guess it is kind of what it is there. So if you're looking for Saints coverage, you can find it on LouisianaSports.net. Ross Jackson's got some practice reports that are about to fire up, and he's got some injury reports coming at you here in the next probably 25 to 30 minutes. So check that out on LouisianaSports.net. Let me do something real quick right now on the front of LouisianaSports.net. I'm going to send this out on Twitter probably in the second hour of the show, but I'll do it now for those that are listening on the radio. LSU's got a bye week this week, and basketball's not playing, and baseball hasn't started practice yet. And so we've talked a lot about LSU football this week, and I've written a lot about LSU football this week, but we've got a weekend coming up where the Saints don't play, and LSU football is not in action either. So we got some creative content that we're going to do. I've got some station surveys coming up. I also have an LSU fall baseball preview that's going to go up in the next couple of days as well. But we also want to do a mailbag. So if you've got any questions regarding any LSU sports, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, recruiting, whatever you want to ask about LSU sports, I'll answer some questions for you on the website. Just send me an email. It's hunt.palmer@guaranteemedia.com. I think y'all can probably figure that one out. Hunt.palmer@guaranteemedia.com. Send me an email, and I will answer it in the mailbag that we'll put up sometime this weekend, because we've got some time to fill here on a bye weekend for LSU football. So go ahead and fire those my way. Hunt.palmer@guaranteemedia.com, and we'll get that answered up on the website this weekend. All right, when we come back, best win, worst loss in college football and the NFL. Got some SEC flavor in there, one that's just real important that is not a loss, and then some NFL as well, one AFC and one NFC. So come back with us here on The Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years plus of redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. If you've got an older home and you've got one of those real tight showers that's just a little square right there in the bathroom, and you just don't like it because it's a little bit crammed, but you've also got this huge, massive jacuzzi-style tub that takes up a ton of space. Here's what David Duvall and his team are doing a lot of here in the Baton Rouge area. They take that small shower and turn that into a closet. Maybe it's a linen closet. Maybe it's a closet to store some other things that you've got in the bathroom. And they take that big, huge jacuzzi tub that you may not use, and it makes a great space for a walk-in shower. You can check it out on their Instagram, One Bath and Closets. There's some great pictures of some of the work that they have done. It's beautiful. It's functional. It changes the aesthetic of your bathroom and adds a little bit of value to your home as well. So if you're just not thrilled with the layout of the bathroom because this shower is too small and I don't really use that tub, get the closet put in right there. Throw the shower in right there. Transform your bathroom. It says it right there on this website. It's onebathandclosets.com. You can look at the testimonials from their satisfied clients. You can get that free consultation. It doesn't cost anything for David Duvall and his team to come over and just take a look at what they may be able to do for you. Make that call or head to the website today. It's One Bath and Closets, onebathandclosets.com.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further.
Hunt Palmer, lover of LSU, Shreveport, and mayonnaise on hot dogs. The Hunt Palmer Show.
All right, closing out hour number 1 here, Thursday edition Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Rouse, as we always do. Best win and worst loss on the board in college football and the NFL. We'll start in college football. Best win on the board, I think, to me, sneaky. SMU at Louisville. SMU is 4-1. They play in the ACC, and they don't play Clemson or Miami. There are no more ranked teams on their schedule. If they go to Louisville, who is ranked, even though they got beat last week, you start to look at that schedule, and they're 5-1, and you go, well, that could be a 10-2 football team. That could be an 11-1 football team. And then do we have to talk about that? I don't know. They're going to have to do it. They got to go on the road and win. I can't name one player who plays football for SMU. Don't really have any interest in learning any players that play for SMU. Good uniforms, though. But that's a pretty big win if they can go on the road and there's no more ranked teams left. I don't trust SMU to finish that off and pay the whole thing forward. I think they'll trip up a couple times. But, hey, that'd be a pretty big win if SMU could go to Louisville and win. That's the best college football win on the board to me. Worst loss in college football, I don't expect it. But Georgia, you got Auburn coming to town. If you feel sorry for yourself for a minute here, and Carson Beck wants to turn it over a couple more times like he did last week, Auburn's got a way of punching above its weight with Alabama when Alabama comes to town, and maybe that can apply to Georgia as well. If you lose to that one, you're in big trouble because Georgia still has to play Ole Miss. They've still got to play Texas, and you've cut your margin for error down a little bit. Now, I thought Kirby's speech after the game was good. Told the guys he's never been more proud. Understand how you feel right now. Get back to work. And I think Georgia will respond. But if it gets sleepy and you feel sorry for yourself for losing that game to Alabama, and Auburn all of a sudden gets up 17-3 on you, like, sound the alarms. I don't expect it, but that would be the worst loss in college football. Best win in the NFL to me is the Ravens going to Cincinnati and beating the Bengals. That would make Cincinnati 1-4. You can pretty much turn out the lights at that point. I mean, realistically speaking, the Ravens are a favorite in that game, but it's because it's a division game, and even though the Ravens started 0-2, they were moving the football, they were scoring a lot of points, they've looked really good the last 2 weeks. I think for the Ravens to maybe drive a death knell into the Bengals would be the best win in the NFL this week. I would certainly hear the Saints going to Kansas City and winning. That's certainly that would certainly be huge for the Saints, but that's not a division game. It's not even in your conference. I think the Ravens beating the Bengals would be the best win on the board. It's going to be a desperate Bengals team, so we'll see. Worst loss in the NFL. Seattle, kind of off to a good start. I don't hear a lot of chatter about Seattle at this point, kind of sneaking a little bit below the radar. Everybody knows in the NFC that San Francisco is supposed to be good. People are looking at Washington going, are they for real? Everybody knows Detroit is good. Tampa looks good, and I hear a lot of chatter about those. I don't hear a lot about Seattle. Don't go lose to the Giants at home. No need for that. The Giants are terrible. So don't do that. Don't let Malik come in there and go nuts on you, assuming he's cleared to play. Seattle hosting the Giants, that would be the worst loss in the NFL. So best win in college football, SMU at Louisville. Worst loss, Georgia at home against Auburn in the Deep South's oldest rivalry. Best win in the NFL, the Ravens at the Bengals. That would make the Bengals 1-4, and the worst loss in the NFL would be Seattle hosting the New York Football Giants. Beck, do you have any thoughts on any of those games that may go the way that I'm saying? Are the Ravens going to beat the Bengals?
I think so, unfortunately.
Me too.
I will have to say, obviously, that these best and worst losses have been a little biased towards the Bengals. But to be fair,
but they've played the Chiefs and Ravens.
Yeah, so it's understandable. Yeah,
I mean, those are the three teams I think outside of Buffalo everybody thinks it's going to matter, and they're playing early, but they still feel big. At the time, I didn't know Cincinnati was 1-3. At the time, Cincinnati was coming out hot.
Yeah, so I that's understandable. And then the worst loss, the Seahawks have been really good. Geno Smith he's played better than he did last year so far, and they've obviously got one of the best receivers in the league, DK Metcalf, and the defense is pretty salty. So the Seahawks definitely should be considered one of the contenders there in the NFC. So that losing to Daniel Jones that would suck.
Not be good. We got a couple of Blairs, Chris Blair and Blair Kirkhoff from the Kansas City Star.
The Palmer Show.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. there are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Caitlin Clark is the WNBA Rookie of the Year, getting 66 of the 67 votes. Clark broke the league rookie scoring record and the single-season assist record, including a record 19 in one game. Clark finished fourth in the MVP voting. NFL Week 5 kicks off tonight in the NFC South. The 2-2 Falcons host the 3-1 Buccaneers. ESPN's Harry Douglas on the division-leading Bucks.
Baker's getting the football out of his hands quick. He's being clean in the pocket. But it also helps that you have a Chris Godwin, who is a sure-handed wide receiver. And also Mike Evans. I call him Mr. Consistent himself. Over 1,000 yards in each season he's been in the NFL. That's why Baker Mayfield is having a lot of success in Tampa Bay.
Harry Douglas, baseball's only wildcard series going the distance. The Mets and Brewers, they play a winner-take-all Game 3 tonight in Milwaukee, 6:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and TV. Padres right-hander Joe Musgrove getting tests today on his right elbow after leaving Game 2 against the Braves.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Cannon. Coming up Friday, I've called the Steelers frauds and said the Cowboys are headed for a tank. I'll tell you why the loser of this game can kiss their season goodbye. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boy, does it smell good.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
That's good.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio, this is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Rouse's Markets, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. The Saints will play the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday night. We'll get a preview of said Kansas City Chiefs from Blair Kirchhoff of the Kansas City Star. 30 minutes from right now, Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, in 15 minutes. Appreciate you hanging out with us here for the next hour. Beck, story on The Athletic. They polled 50 people in college football. As Stuart Mandel writes, they were head coaches, general managers, assistant coaches, analysts, and recruiting staff. So people that work in college football and kind of understand what the expectations and realities are all over the country. And they wanted them to poll their top 5 jobs in college football. And I've got the results right here.
All right.
Would you care to venture a guess at what won out as the top 5 jobs in college football?
Are they in order, like number 1?
I have that, but I'm just going to ask you for the first 5.
Okay. LSU.
LSU is number 5 on the list.
Alabama.
Number 4 on the list.
Texas.
Number 2 on the list.
I'm missing one. Georgia.
Number 1 on the list. You're missing one of the top 5. You got all the SEC schools in the top 4.
Right.
What's the last one?
Ohio State.
Ohio State. That is 5 for 5 on the top 5. Do you care to venture a guess at number 6? Because I think it's interesting, and it would not have been 6 15 years ago.
Number 6. Penn State.
Oregon comes in at number 6.
Yeah.
I'll give you some perspective on this because they actually have how many first, second, third, fourth, and fifth place votes everybody got. So Georgia far and away leads the way at 16 first place votes and 16 second place votes. So 32 of the 50 people, over half, said Georgia is a top 2 job. Texas comes in at second. They had 12 first place votes, 4 less than Georgia, and 11 second place votes. That's 5 less than Georgia. Those 2 schools are in absolute recruiting hotbeds. Georgia and Texas churn out NFL players year over year over year. Now, a lot of them haven't played for the University of Texas over the last 10 years, but the states do that. And they are top dog in those two states, despite what A&M would have you believe. The University of Texas is the top dog there, especially now that they're in the SEC, and especially now that they were in the playoff last year, and especially now that NIL is rocking and rolling, and they can kind of handle things. Ohio State is kind of in like LSU and Georgia in this way, that they are the top dog in a huge state. Georgia Tech doesn't pose a threat to Georgia, and none of the Ohio schools, which are all mainly in the MAC, have a threat to Ohio State, and LSU is that way as well. Texas has to fight with all the other schools, and obviously Alabama's got to deal with Auburn there at number 4. But LSU does come in at number 5. They got 3 of the 50 first-place votes for best job in the country. They got 2 second-place votes. They got 3 third-place votes, 5 fourth-place votes, and 11 fifth-place votes. If you read the blurb on LSU here in this story, it says there's a sizable gap between the top 4 and LSU. The advantages are there that you need to win championships because LSU has done that. It says the Tigers are the only Power 5 conference in Louisiana and have traditionally done an outstanding job of keeping the top talent from leaving the state. In the 2024 cycle, LSU signed 10 of the 11 blue chip prospects in the state. In the current cycle, Tigers have commitments from 8 of the 12 blue chippers from Louisiana. There's a quote here from an SEC coordinator. Said the entire state is rooting for you, and they have such a great recruiting footprint. Houston is so close by, and many people there are big LSU fans as well. They can beat both Mississippi schools for whoever they want there, and they have that stadium and the culture. LSU is unique. You don't even have to recruit. You just have to evaluate, especially now that Saban is out of the game. And I think this is not new information to those of you who listen to our shows and are huge football fans and love the Tigers and understand the advantages that LSU has. But it is, I think, always interesting for me to get opinions from those outside of our bubble. In our bubble here, we're talking about the safety rotation. And we're talking about, I opened the show talking special teams and how many kickoffs and touchbacks that LSU is producing. You're thinking about the next game and the environment, and it's all baked in, and you're just looking at it from 2 inches away, observing every little thing you can. But for those that are removed and just look at LSU from afar, there's reverence is too firm a word, but certainly respect and admiration for what LSU is. Because there's a culture down here, there's an identity with the stadium and the night games and the white uniforms and the call in Baton Rouge and all that goes into that is a little bit different than everybody else. Like, what do you identify with as far as the University of Texas? Like, they've got burnt orange that nobody else has, and they got a big steer that runs out of there, but do you associate that with any sort of mystique or any sort of culture there? It's in a big city. Like, yeah, Auburn's awesome, but they play second fiddle in their own state. Like, LSU's just, there's something to it that makes it stand out, and it's just been built over decades and decades, and finally, 25 years ago, somebody figured out how to unlock it, and now it's here. And I firmly do believe that LSU is a top 5 job in the country. I think LSU is a better job than Oregon. I think LSU is obviously a better job than Penn State or Michigan. I think LSU is a better job than Florida or Texas A&M. Now, we have the one true unknown, which is what does it look like after 15 years in the NIL world? What does that look like? I don't know. I was terrified of it 4 years ago. And y'all know, I've said this ad nauseum, like when I see a rule change or something change significantly in the world of college sports, my first thought is not, well, how does that affect the student athletes? It's not my first thought. My first thought is, well, how does that affect LSU's chance to win? And this is a big deal when you start letting student athletes be paid. And I said this on the radio. I said, my concern is that Texas A&M and Texas will be able to walk over to a recruit and say, would you sign this McDonald's napkin? Oh, by the way, I'll give you $1.7 million for that. And my concern is, well, do we have enough people that can do that or that care to do that? Because that could be a big deal. And I don't think that LSU keeps up with Texas and Texas A&M dollar for dollar. But I'll tell you this, and it's something that I've repeated a few times over the last year. Like, LSU went out to hire a new football coach. They paid the old one $70 million to go away or whatever it was. They paid the new one $100. He hired a staff, and they decided that staff wasn't good enough on one side of the ball after 2 years, so they bought them all out and hired the highest paid defensive coordinator in the country. And if you thought that was all the money that LSU had to go pay all those coaches to coach and to not coach, it's not, because they got a number one quarterback in the country committed, and the number one running back in the country committed, and the number one interior offensive lineman in the country committed, and the number one cornerback in the country committed. And I'm pretty sure they all aren't just coming out of the goodness of their heart. So LSU has, to an extent, kept up. When you look at per capita NFL players, per capita 4 and 5 stars, Louisiana is as good as it gets. And LSU is the only show in town. When you look at facilities, LSU can keep up. When you look at tradition, when you look at championships, LSU can keep up with everybody outside of Alabama. The only thing you could introduce that may keep LSU separated is dollars. And to this point, it hasn't separated LSU from the pack. The pack, LSU is still very much in the pack. Won a national championship 5 years ago, had a Heisman Trophy winner last year, won the SEC West 2 years ago, and you're paying a lot of money for a lot of different things. So I'll live with the 5th ranking. I think that you can make the case that Georgia's a better job than LSU. I think you can make the case that Texas is a better job than LSU. I think you can make the case that Alabama and Ohio State are as well. I fall short when you get to Michigan. I fall short when you get to Southern Cal. I fall short when you get to Florida right now. Florida would have been in this top 5 16 years ago. You win the championship in 06. You win the championship in 08. Yeah, your facilities aren't that great, but you can recruit. And you got history. And that was really all that you needed. You got a fertile recruiting ground, a really good recruiting coach, done. Well, now the game's changed. You need facilities. There's been an arm race. They don't have that. You need boosters and backing. They haven't been able to do that. They promised a quarterback $1 bajillion, and he came, and they couldn't pay him, so he left. That's not good. That matters. I know you're in a recruiting hotbed. I know you got SEC Network money, but you're not getting it together. So Florida falls out. I'm shocked that I look at this list. There are 19 teams on this list. The biggest surprising omission is Clemson. 19 teams. Central Florida is on this list. Liberty is on this list. Now, Liberty only got 1 vote for 3rd best job, and it's stipulated in this story that they have a lot of money, the facilities are really nice, you don't have to win a lot in a bad conference. So good is relative to everybody. It wasn't what 5 jobs can you win a championship at. It was best, and they put Liberty on there because of that. Central Florida is a massive university in the middle of a recruiting hotbed, and they get votes because of that. But the fact that Clemson's not on this list is stunning to me, because that means they've polled 50 people, and nobody in the top 50 people put Clemson in the top 5. Nobody.
Well, it when you think about it, to me at least, it makes a little bit of sense, just because there wasn't really a lot of history with Clemson before Dabo Swinney got there, and he kind of changed that program. And I mean, it seems like to me, for that job, you don't have it. Recruiting is not that easy. You don't really have.
You're right there by Georgia, and South Carolina puts a lot of players out.
Yeah, that's true. But again, you have so much competition. It's not like other schools where like LSU, but and then they now have such high standard with what Dabo has done, that now whoever the next coach is, he's not going to get 3 years to work it out. If he gets losing record his first 2 years, he's gone.
Yeah, we'll see if that's the case at Florida right now.
Yeah,
which feels like it is. So interesting. It's up at The Athletic if you want to check it out. LSU ranked the 5th best job in college football. Speaking of LSU, Chris Blair is the voice of the Tigers. He will join us next, talk about this LSU football team. That is coming up on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Neil and Melissa have been running Boudreaux's Electrical for 40 years. Every single Generac home standby generator that you purchase from Boudreaux's Electrical comes with a 7 to 10 year warranty. Depends on the one you buy, and they'll tell you up front. They're not going to pull the old okey doke on you and you think you're getting 10, you only get 7. They'll tell you up front, but it's just based on the type of generator that you buy. They will customize that type of generator to your needs. What's your square footage? What do you need powered in the event that the power does go out? And they'll get you in the one that you need. And what they can do is they can monitor your generator remotely. And I talk about this a lot, but it's such a huge deal because you can't always know when your generator malfunctions. Yeah, you'll know if a storm blows through and the power goes out and the generator doesn't come on. Like, you'll know that. But you'd like to know before that. And Boudreaux's Electrical often can know before that because they monitor it. So if it does malfunction just in the middle of the day over the course for whatever reason, or if the kids do run a go-kart off of it or something and you didn't know because you weren't home, well, Boudreaux's Electrical will know because they monitor the generator 24/7. They'll call you and say, hey, something's up with your generator. We need to come fix it. Send somebody out there. They'll repair it. It'll be a full-time Boudreaux's Electrical employee that does it. So that when the power does go out, yours doesn't. The generator fires it back up. If you're a business owner, you've got commercial property, and you want to be sure when these nasty summer afternoon storms roll through that you don't lose power, well, Boudreaux's Electrical gets you that Generac generator. Give them a call, 985-397-1562. 985-397-1562, or in Gonzales, 225-300-9389. You can find them online as well, boudreauxelectrical.com, boudreauxelectrical.com.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Doing your grocery shopping for the weekend, get on by Rouse's. They got it all for you figured out. Also a good place to swing on by for lunch if you got one in your area. They got a great hot bar there, a great salad bar as well. Pay based on weight. It's always some real tasty stuff over there at Rouse's. So appreciate them for making our Thursday shows possible each and every week. Rouse's, it feels like home. Bad news for the New Orleans Saints. Dennis Allen meeting with the media right this very moment. And he revealed to the assembled media today that Taysom Hill has fractures in his ribs. He did not elaborate on how many ribs are fractured or how extensive those fractures are. I am not a doctor. I do know that there's nothing you can do for broken ribs except wait. So that's not good news for the New Orleans Saints and not good news for their most versatile weapon. We understand that, we talked about it on Tuesday. Like when he's been out there, over the last 18 drives, they've scored a bunch of touchdowns, 11 of them. When he hasn't been out there, they have not scored a lot of touchdowns, and they haven't gotten that many field goals either. So you're talking about a guy that is vital to their attack and a guy that they're probably not going to have, I would imagine, for a couple of weeks. I mean, I don't know if you're going to send the most physical runner that you have out there with broken ribs. You're going to have to wait till those heal, and that could take a little bit of time. So injury bug just keeps on biting the New Orleans Saints. We'll talk a little bit more about that on tomorrow's show. We'll talk some Chiefs with Blair Kirkhoff coming up from the Kansas City Star. Speaking of Blair, Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, joins us every Thursday here in segment number 2 of the second hour, does so now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Chris, how we doing?
Doing good, man. Enjoying the bye week, but kind of missing the opportunity to see the Tigers play this weekend. But in good time, due time, they'll be back in action.
Going to be some back patio time, watching some football. You got a list of honeydews. What do you don't get many weekends off, so I'd imagine there's got to be something going on.
Well, you got to put your priorities first. So you get the honeydew list out of the way during the week, and then come Saturday, yes, it's from 11 a.m. till whenever you go to sleep. We'll be watching football.
What'd you take from LSU's win over South Alabama when you factor in the results on the field and the opponent they played?
Yeah, I think that's the kind of win that we were expecting to see. I was asked all week what I thought South Alabama, would be able to do offensively. Having watched 2 of the Jaguars games, I kind of thought they'd score 17 to 20 points. And that was based solely on what I had seen in the previous matchups of LSU. So again, they certainly, outdid what I expected them to do. And again, taking in that game, going back and watching the film, that's kind of what I thought we would see against Nichols, kind of what I thought we'd see against UCLA, not comparing those teams together, but just a dominant performance. I mean, South Alabama, that game was over, with 10 minutes left to go in the first quarter, and the score was only 14-0. But it was a stark different body language, the lack of mistakes, everything, seemed to be hitting. So, I took it as a solid win, a good win that maybe this team is getting better week to week to week. Now you go into the bye week, you hope you make some improvement without a contest this Saturday, and then things really step up against an Ole Miss team who, frankly, should probably ask somebody to charge Kentucky with assault and battery. Yeah. I looked at their injury report, or their availability report, as we like to call it, and my goodness, Kentucky has certainly put a whooping on Ole Miss.
I have a different flavor there. I think Lane Kiffin is doing that on purpose. You're going to make me say everybody that's injured, I'm going to put 40 people on this list, or have some minion do it. I think he is completely playing the part here of the social media bully. That's my 2 cents. Although I did watch the game, and Kentucky did whip Ole Miss physically.
Yes, I agree.
All right, let's talk about this defense. Obviously, we get the former players to sit next to us and tell us what's going on X's and O's wise, but the LSU linebackers did have a lot of production in the game against South Alabama weeks in there, and then obviously Greg Penn. What have you seen from those 2 guys?
Yeah, I mean, they're impressive, and they looked very good Saturday. I mean, they were, as you said, they were flying to the football and looked like they were playing football. They weren't thinking football. I mean, it was, Whit Weeks was everywhere. I thought Greg Penn, again, a career-high 14 tackles, was, had his presence be known. And frankly, I think we all can agree that coming into the season on paper, we thought, this linebacking core should be really good. And not that they haven't been good. It's just I don't think they made the eye-popping plays for the most part this season until this past Saturday. And you can chalk up that to all kinds of reasons, whatever theory you want to go to. I just know they look better, and they look like an SEC linebacking core. And, that's, again, if some of it has to do with guys learning their responsibilities, understanding where they're supposed to be, where their alignment is, where their fits are, and then ball gets snapped, go get it. If they're just getting better at that, then maybe that's the reason. But I was impressed with the way they played. Not only were they where they're supposed to be, but they made really good tackles, physical tackles, and fundamental tackles. And I don't know that we could have said that, maybe in the first 2 to 3 weeks.
Ryan Kelly said after the game on Saturday that we've been playing 6 safeties, rolling guys in. Come 2 weeks from now, talking about the Ole Miss game, there won't be a lot of rollings. How difficult do you think that decision is going to be to pare that rotation down to 2 or 3 guys?
I found it interesting that, again, I did a double take when I saw it earlier this week that, this is the team we're going to roll with. When we come out on Saturday night against Ole Miss, this is to get used to, barring, injury, obviously, this is what we're going with. I mean, that sounds like quite the challenge, not only for the defensive players, those position players, but I imagine the position coaches as well to, after this body of work, as you said, at the safety position, we've seen enough film on everybody. If they move some personnel around, Toviano becomes a little more involved, which we haven't seen a lot of him. Major Burns maybe becomes your safety more so than the star position. It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, they know more. They watch it. They break down practice film. They break down game film. But that's quite the declaration to say, we're going to have our SEC defense set as far as personnel when we, open up against Ole Miss. But, I think that is a good sign. And hopefully we will see that translate into positive play for the defense.
Let's talk about the offense. It didn't take Caden Durham long to get going. Was Jim Nickel even ready to spot at that point, or did you have to do it on your own?
No, I mean, I think he did tell me Durham was in there because I said, wow, he is going to get the start. And then before that sentence got finished, he was off to the races. So we really didn't get to take the first sip of our water or Coca-Cola before Caden Durham 14 seconds later was in the end zone. But he's something to watch. But, I tweeted it out earlier this week. I was paying attention when Coach Dennis Shaver joined you on game day in week 2 and said, hey, look, if he gets it in space, good luck anybody catching him. So he's impressive to watch. And hopefully the toe issue is not going to be a factor. And just being on campus and being around football, it doesn't seem like it. So looking forward to him getting right back at it. He performed well in his first SEC game. Why not game number 2?
Yeah, I mean, I asked Dennis Shaver off the air, maybe not off the record, but off the air, and I said, are these guys that we're talking about running track, Caden Durham, are they like legitimately fast enough to run track at LSU where they win a national championship every year? And he's like, yeah, they're fast enough to do that, and they will if the coaches let them. So that's something to see when he cranks it up a notch. So this early bye week is not something we see every single year. How do you think that it'll impact LSU as they get ready for Ole Miss, who's played a really physical game last week and has a physical South Carolina team that you saw in person earlier this year coming up on Saturday?
Well, I'll say this. I applaud the 2-bye week. I don't know that my opinion weighs anything with anybody in the SEC office, and obviously it comes down to where the games fall on the calendar, but I love it. But having said that, from a personal note, I asked Coach Kelly about it a couple of times about, how do you prepare for that? And I just think I think they like it, and the reason they do is because you've heard him talk about they're playing a number of true freshmen. They've got new guys who have transferred in who are major contributors. And you play, the first 5 games, and then you get a breather. You get a week, which this week was treated just like a practice week. As I know you've heard Coach Kelly talk about it, his media drops this week. And again, I think it falls at a good time because you had one conference game on the road. You got the other 3 games, obviously, or 4 games, obviously, out of conference. Then you get the bye week, and then you really start that 7-week gauntlet with another bye put in there. And as he told me, this week was going to be practice. They were going to try to get better, and then they'll go right back into game week practice beginning on Monday. And then the following bye week, they'll spend some time making sure at that point of the season everybody's rested, they're recovered, they'll get a few more things set for recruiting. So they're using both weeks differently. But I think the way the schedule sets up, the way that college football is now, where you've got, I won't say every year a majority of new players, but you have a significant number of new players every year. I think it fits fine for LSU, and I think it'll serve them well.
11:40 coming up on Monday. Brian Kelly press conference. You can catch Chris Blair and Gordy Rush there. Coach's show every Thursday. Not tonight because it's a bye week, but every Thursday at TJ Ribs. And then, of course, on the air for kickoff each and every week. Joins us on Thursdays here at 2:15. Thanks, Chris. Enjoy the weekend.
You do the same. Tee 'em high, shoot 'em low.
I will do my very best. I'm going to tee him high, and we'll see what the score says. But we'll be out there playing a little golf on Saturday. Very much looking forward to that. From one Blair to another, that's Chris Blair, Blair Kirchhoff of the Kansas City Star talking Chiefs next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio, video, security solutions, avssla.com is the website. I told you about this a little bit earlier, but Mitchell Fisher over at AVSS was telling me about a project they just completed out on a pier for someone who had property out on a lake, whether you're out at Diversion Canal, maybe Falls River, wherever you may have a property. If you worry about the Wi-Fi down there and it's just not what you need to stream your music or control things back up at the house, they can help you with that. They can install something that's, trust me, well over my head, but it's right down there on the dock that can link the Wi-Fi from the house up there off the water down to on the water so that you can handle your security system, you can handle playing the music, you can handle all the sound that goes outdoors and indoors, all from the touch of a button on your phone. You don't have to worry about spotty Wi-Fi signals. I know for us, the last few years when we've gone out to the aunt and uncle's house out on the lake, we fight baby monitors and trying to deal with the Wi-Fi and whether or not it's close enough and we can handle that during nap time. Well, this fixes that. They can do it for you at Audio Video Security Solutions. If you've got a property and you'd like to handle some Wi-Fi down there on the dock or on the pier, they can do it at Audio Video Security Solutions. Check them out on Instagram, AVSS_BR. They've got some great videos of some of the work that they did on that project and just a lot of things that they can do capabilities-wise. And it's good to learn about because if you're like me, I don't know what's possible in the audio video security world. They certainly do, and you can learn at AVSS_BR on Instagram. I always tell you about the website. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. Check them out online, avssla.com, avssla.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Cruising right along here, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Rouse's, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Saints, Monday Night Football, nation's biggest stage this weekend in Kansas City to take on the defending world champion Chiefs. Blair Kirkhoff is a sports writer for the Kansas City Star, and I don't know if there's a much better place to be a sports writer these days. Royals looking good, and the Chiefs are always looking good, it seems. He joins us now on the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Blair, how are you?
I'm doing great, and in addition to Chiefs and Royals, we've got the Missouri Tigers and the Kansas State Wildcats still in the top 25. So you're right; these are pretty heady times to be in the sports business around here.
That's always a lot of fun. Missouri's got a big one down in College Station coming up this weekend. We'll see how that one goes. But we want to talk Saints and Chiefs, so let's do so. It's been an interesting start from afar for the Kansas City Chiefs this year because they're winning. But they're really close, and they're finding a way to win games at the end. What's the feel around that organization? I would imagine the fan base is just saying, hey, we trust these guys. They'll get it done if it's not the prettiest thing we've ever seen. Is that the way it looks right now?
Yeah, kind of. I think you're right about that. That there's still a lot of faith and trust in the Chiefs, even if they're not piling up the style points in these victories. There's still concern about the offense. They've had some pretty significant injuries. Seems like there's one a week for this team, but in the end, they're finding a way to get it done. Their defense is playing so well. So it's not the way the fans are used to seeing the Chiefs win, especially in the earliest years of Patrick Mahomes. But as long as there's a zero on the other side of that dash, they're okay with it.
Rashee Rice goes down. That's one of the injuries that you're talking about. What does that mean for Kansas City?
Yeah, that was a big blow that occurred in the first quarter of the game against the Chargers last weekend. He'd gotten off to such a great start, 24 receptions, almost 300 yards receiving in the first 3 games, and then he collides with Mahomes trying to make a tackle after a Mahomes interception and injures his right knee. And we thought initially that he had perhaps torn an ACL, and which would have put him out for the year. But the team's backing off of that a little bit, and they're kind of in a wait-and-see mode. We were in the locker room today, and Rice was in there with a sleeve on his right leg, but not on crutches and walking around. So there's definitely some swelling on his knee. They'll get more tests and have more of a definitive answer next week. He certainly won't play Monday night, and I suspect he'll be out for several weeks. But the Chiefs are, they're going to have to make do with what they have on the roster because they don't have the cap space to go out and get to make a big deal for a wide receiver. And I'm not sure I'm sure of this. It hasn't been their MO in recent years. They've gotten a receiver at the trade deadline, but last season it was McCole Hardman who was returning to the Chiefs after spending some time with the Jets. And 2 years ago it was Kadarius Toney, and he's no longer with the team. So they haven't made a big splash in trying to obtain a receiver after the season has started. And I don't think that's going to be the case this time either.
Travis Kelce's production is a little bit down. Is there a reason for that?
You're right. It is. Until last week, he had 7 receptions for 89 yards in his best game of the season. The popular answer is, he's become his own, enterprise with his acting pursuits and his girlfriend, and and everything else that's occurred off field for him in the last year, which is really remarkable. But I think the Chiefs will tell you that in the first 3 games anyway, a lot of the production that Kelsey would have gotten in previous years was actually going to Rashee Rice. The types of pattern, the routes, the yards after the catch, those types of things. Rice was doing what Kelsey had done, and then Rashee Rice goes down on Sunday, and Kelsey steps in and ends up having the big game. So the bigger surprise to me is he hasn't gotten to the end zone yet, and he's not a touchdown maker the way, say, Tony Gonzalez used to be for the Chiefs, but he was always good for 6, 7, 8 touchdowns a year, and through 4 games he hasn't been there yet.
Blair Kirchhoff's our guest. Kansas City Star Sports Writer will be Saints and Chiefs coming up Monday night from Arrowhead. Last one on the offensive side. I could ask you a million questions about how brilliant Patrick Mahomes is, but the interceptions have kind of been something that's been interesting to folks. He's turned the ball over in every game thus far. Has there been a common theme there?
No, you're right. It has been a little eye-opening. He's had stretches in his career where he's gone on a bit of an interception binge. I think there was one time a few years ago he had a pick in 7 straight games. But the reason he's the number 2 all-time rating quarterback is because he keeps those interception numbers down. I would say that the fact that offense is down throughout the NFL, except for the Saints for the first 2 games of the season. But for the most part, offensive numbers are down across the NFL, and the Chiefs are part of that. They've also had to adjust a little bit. They lost a wide receiver they were really counting on in Hollywood Brown, injured in the first preseason game, their biggest offseason acquisition. They lost their starting running back, Isaiah Pacheco, after a couple of games. So they're dealing with some pieces that they weren't expecting, or dealing without pieces that they were expecting to have. But Mahomes will just flat out tell you he hasn't played well. He just has not had the best start of his career through 4 games. And, it's got to the point where when I see him dropping back, I used to think, okay, this is going to be delightful. How is this going to turn out? What kind of 30-yard gain are we going to be in store for here? You kind of have a bad feeling. There was a play 2 weeks ago when the Chiefs were in Atlanta. The end of their first possession was a Mahomes interception in the end zone. And in years past, I would shake my head, but now it's just like, yeah, I've seen it before. It's happened with a little more regularity. I think the Chiefs are going to win the game, but this was a bad pick for Mahomes. It just happens more often these days.
They're winning a lot of games. Their defense is excellent. What would you call the strength of the Chiefs' defense at this point?
Yeah, it is excellent, and the strength is absolutely Chris Jones in the middle. Defensive tackle, but he lines up at defensive end. He lines up where he wants, basically, when he's in the game. And he has just become such a money rushing defensive lineman. He 3rd and long with the game on the line, and he is he's back there at the quarterback. He is so disruptive. He had a couple of sacks last week against the Chargers, but the biggest play he made was on a 4th and short when down in the red zone, and totally disrupted a Los Angeles play. I think he should be a leading contender for Defensive Player of the Year, at least through the first quarter of the season. But they're good on all levels. Look, they lost Willie Gay to the Saints. They lost L'Jarius Sneed to the Tennessee Titans, and they have managed replacements have managed to step in and pick up the slack left there. So no, they're just all around solid on defense, and their coordinator Steve Spagnuolo, with his 4 Super Bowl rings, is you'll get any of the guys in New Orleans, Tyrann Mathieu, Tano Passanio, Willie Gay Jr. They'll all tell you what an impact defensive coordinator they have here in Steve Spagnuolo.
No question. And last one here, Blair, we appreciate your time. With Spagnuolo's approach here, the Saints are going to certainly be without their starting center, who's their best offensive lineman, and maybe without their starting guard in Cesar Ruiz. Trevor Penning is a question at one of the tackles as well. So how aggressive do you expect Steve Spagnuolo to be with Derek Carr coming up on Monday?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely going to be the case. That's what the Chiefs were in a similar situation a week ago with the Chargers were missing both of their starting offensive tackles, and they really did turn on the heat against LA. I love the start that Derek Carr's off to, though. He's very familiar with the Steve Spagnuolo defense and playing at Arrowhead Stadium. He's won here, obviously, so I'm happy for him and the start that he's off to. And I was he was the MVP after a couple of games this season. But yeah, I do think you're going to see a very aggressive Chiefs defense on Monday night.
Good times to be in Kansas City. Blair Kirchhoff's all over it with the Kansas City Star. We appreciate a little bit of time. Enjoy the weekend, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
He's Blair Kirchhoff, Kansas City Star. I didn't really realize until we were going to have him on, and I started thinking, I was like, wait, the Royals are playing really good baseball, and obviously the Chiefs feel like they always win. So it's just those are those fun times. We've had some of those down here in South Louisiana when the Breeze teams were rolling and LSU would pop a really good team here and there. There was a lot of excitement. I think 2011 was like that around here for sure.
Even the Hornets a couple of years there with the Chris Paul
for sure.
really good.
And the 2019, the Saints had a really good team, and obviously LSU was setting the world on fire. So it's a good time to be a sports writer or radio guy when things like that are going on. And things aren't terrible here in South Louisiana, but we'll see if the Saints can go up to Kansas City and steal a win against a team that is a little banged up, just like the Saints are. Like we were talking about in the last hour, like they don't have Pacheco, they don't have Rice.
Yep.
Like it's the same type deal. So we'll see how things go in Kansas City on Monday. We'll be watching it over at LeBear's Baton Rouge and excited to do so coming up on Monday. Come on out and see us for the watch party at LeBear's inside the Sportsbook on Monday night. Make some plans. We're going to have a lot of fun all together as a station there. All right, one more time out. We'll come back and close it out. Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carbo, his team, fantastic, fantastic people. If you're a business owner, I'm speaking to you. You know how to run your business. Do you know what your insurance program says? I worked in insurance for 7 years, and I talked to a lot of business owners over the course of those 7 years that weren't real sure what the insurance program said. They know they were present there for the renewal. They know what it cost and what that was in relation to last year. And if they had two competing brokers, they knew who was cheaper. But do you know what the nuts and bolts of the policies said? That's the most important thing when bad things happen. And far too often, business owners are just not quite aware. And you can be made aware if you trust your broker and put them in position to help your business in times of need. The Highland Insurance Group can absolutely do that. If you're a business owner and you're not sure about EPL insurance, you're not sure about umbrella limits, if you're a business owner and you're not sure which cars are insured or what those limits are for auto accidents, you don't want to wait until after the car accident. You don't want to wait until after the hurricane comes through and then start looking at the policy going, what do we get here? We got co-insurance. Do we qualify for that? Don't go through that process. Just call the Highland Insurance Group and make sure you are taken care of. Jonathan Carver and his team can help you do that. Their clients think of them as an asset to their business because they can trust them in putting together that insurance program. Whether it's property and casualty or employee and group benefits, the Highland Insurance Group can help you out. Check them out online, HighlandIG.com. The Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com.
It's an everyday thing here. We work horses in the mornings and we work on the property during the day, and without these John Deere tractors, it'd almost be impossible to keep up with the place. I've dealt with some of the other colors and stuff, and I never really got the response back that I get from John Deere, We really enjoy dealing with Sunshine. They're good people. They always check on us and make sure our equipment's running, and we love them. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
There it is, the extra mile on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
All right, closing up shop here. Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, as always, presented by Rouse's, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Rouse's, this feels like home. Let's play some Take It or Leave It back.
Alrighty, first one here. The Saints will be wearing black helmets for their Monday night matchup with the Chiefs. Uniforms are take it or leave it.
Leave it.
I figured as much.
Look, I am okay with some of the Saints iterations that are uniforms. I like the white color rush. That does work. I like the throwbacks that are a little bit more like of a dull gold.
Yeah.
I like those. I can't get on board with black helmets.
Not good.
They look stupid.
I'm not really quite sure why they started to do this recently.
Why did they do any of it back?
Well, that's true. You're right. But at the end of the day,
although you don't really
they're
sell
bad.
a lot of helmets.
No,
So.
you don't sell helmets, so I don't really understand it. It's not a good look. The gold helmets are just classic. They're timeless. You don't need to change them. Moving on, the Broncos will be wearing their early 80s throwbacks this week. Take it or leave it uniforms are. Absolutely.
Excellent stuff. The Orange Crush uniforms, the royal, or I guess that's kind of royal blue.
Yeah.
Sky blue,
like
royal
that.
blue one. They got the D on it there.
The helmet is just
That's fantastic. They've ruined their uniforms with the new stuff that they wear. Absolutely should go back.
All right, third one here. Saints right tackle Trevor Penning ranked 9th in the league for offensive tackles with the lowest pressure rates allowed through week 4. We were wrong about him. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to leave it for now.
Yeah.
I'll if he can do it for 10 games.
Yeah.
A month is not enough. 10 games, I'll give him some credit for that.
Well,
and admit I was wrong.
Yeah, I saw the stat, and I was like, let me look at this a little bit. Well, the Saints are second to last in the NFL in pass attempts.
Yeah.
So that helps. But at the end,
that's by design.
Yeah. Which also, though, they also had blowouts in the first 2 games, so you're not going to throw the ball that much.
Nope.
So that makes sense too. But yeah, we'll see how it turns out when they have to throw the ball a little bit more. Next one
Chris
here,
Jones is going to be a real
that's going to
problem.
be tough. Real tough. Next one here. Kentucky is selling engagement rings made from the floor of Rupp Arena. Not really sure how that's working, but take it or leave it.
I saw a picture of it. Matt Jones, KSR on Twitter. They've got one little wood panel that they've obviously melted down to bend, and you can wear it as an engagement
Doesn't
ring.
seem like that. Maybe in the longevity wise.
I'm gonna pass on that. I'm gonna leave it. If you want to do that, that's your thing. I'm more of a classic. I got just the gold band there.
Yeah.
I got a buddy that has a black rubber one. That's fine too. Whatever you want to wear is fine, but I'm not. I don't need a wooden basketball floor as my engagement.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think
of. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what could even be. What if they got new goalposts for LSU, like new H's, of course. But
Yeah,
they like made gold. They made an engagement ring out of the.
I'm gonna pass.
Yeah,
I'm gonna pass. But look, again, you do you. It's that's all up to you.
All right, last one here. Atlanta will beat Tampa tonight. Take it or leave it.
Ooh, I have a bad admission, Beck. I don't know where that game is.
That game is in Tampa, I believe. I'm not 100% certain on that, but I will tell you.
I knew they were playing. I knew that was the Thursday game, and it's a big game in
they
regards
are
to the Saints,
playing,
but I don't know where it is.
That is in Atlanta, actually.
In Atlanta. Tampa will win.
Okay, yeah.
I liked Atlanta to win the division to start the season, and they still could. I don't love the way they've played. I mean, for them not to score a touchdown on that depleted Saints defense last week's pretty weak. Tampa looks good. They've looked good multiple weeks.
They had that one slip up. They looked really bad in that loss in week 3 to the Broncos, which was really strange. But then they just turned around and beat a really good Eagles team.
And they've done that a few weeks, and maybe the Eagles aren't good.
Maybe
that can be.
They also have a lot of injuries, but obviously we can't. As we talked about,
we're on the injury thing. I got Tampa winning. I would love to be wrong if you're a Saints fan. I think you're pulling hard for Atlanta.
Yes.
I think there's a better chance Tampa's really good than there is that Atlanta's really good. I will leave the door open for both teams to be playoff teams and to win the division, as I will with the Saints. I will not for the Panthers. Thank you very much. But yeah, I think if you're a Saints fan, you got to pull for the Dirty Birds tonight. So we'll see. That'll be your Thursday night football game. If you missed any of today's show, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, wherever that may be. Of course, on YouTube as well. Luke Johnson talking Saints with us. Appreciate him. Chris Blair talking Tigers with us. Blair Kirkhoff of the Kansas City Star. You can find those interviews at Hunt on Saints. Tomorrow's a Football Friday edition. Even without LSU and the Saints playing, we'll get the SEC picks against the spread. Matt's going to drive you home on AFR. Coming up. See you tomorrow. Hunt Paul.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working